Look at that mess. Today we are going to probably disturb some houses. I've been wanting to do this for quite some time, and now I have a need for it, and I can't think of a better time to do it. That right there is a table saw that has been sitting for the better part of, I'm going to say 40 years in that very spot. All the cardboard that you see that's torn, that's all from rodents chewing away at whatever's there that they can make a bed out of, and I'm sure that there's probably some still living in there. My hope is that they haven't made a nest on the top surface. I had a similar piece of equipment that I got rid of several years ago, but it was the same deal, put here about the same era, and a mouse had made a nest on top of it, and the table, it was a router slash planer, and it was just a mess, rusted really bad, pitted. So my hope is that this one is not that way, and I see something is sitting on the top surface, so I'm hoping that that means it's been protected, and we're going to get it out. You can see I've got just a ton of mess in here. The whole place is a mess. I'm ashamed for anybody to even see it, but I need to use a table saw, and as you can see, I've got one set up, but it's a smaller one, and quite frankly, I'd like to have this one. While my uncle was still alive, at one point after he retired from the Air Force, he decided he was going to go back to school and learn architecture and build houses. And he built a total of one, which was my grandmother's house, and never did any after that. In the process, he bought several pieces of equipment. He bought a huge air compressor that never got used. Again, that router planer thing that I mentioned, and this table saw, and I'm wanting to say there was a few other pieces of equipment. All that is since long gone. I got rid of once he passed away, and this is the only piece that's left, in which I wanted to hang on to for obvious reasons. So hopefully, again, it's salvageable, it works, and it's one of those oldie but goodie kind of things. This old shop that I'm using is an auction barn, used to be an auction barn that my dad and granddad built back in the late 60s, early 70s. And once my granddad passed away, the barn was shut down. My uncle eventually turned it into a place to store junk, and it doubled as a place for him to work. I got it and vowed that I would not let it get in the same kind of shape, and here we are. Different day, same story. But nevertheless, I'm going to get this table saw out and hopefully get it to where I can possibly even make a few Christmas presents with it. So we'll see. There you go. It came here January the 8th, 1987. That is not your everyday rat's nest. That thing is a freaking gopher. Okay. So apparently I'm gonna have to go back and look at some video early on when I was unboxing this thing, because I'm missing the front and rear guide bar, which is connected with this piece here to tie them both together. So I've got that, obviously, but I do not have the front and back guide bar, which is going to be required in order to use the fence. So I'm either missing it altogether, which I find somewhat hard to believe, or in the midst of unboxing all this stuff, I laid it in the middle of some of the other junk, and it's sitting here looking at me and I can't see it back. So it would help me to know, one, if it exists, and then two, which direction off camera I went when I set it down. So here's me looking confused and a little bit concerned that I don't have a very important piece for this thing. More to come. All right, good news. I went back and looked at the footage and it does exist, so that is good. I noticed that when I walked out of frame, I was going in that direction. So I'm going to start looking over here, trying to figure out where in the world that I put it. And then if I can't find it over there, then I want to go over this way. I was out of frame for about 15 to 20 seconds, maybe a little more. So I probably could have taken a lap around the building in that amount of time. So there's really no telling where it's at, but the good news is they do exist. So more to come. All right, watch your step. Lots of stuff going on in here. Let's see what we can find. Let's see. Oh. Well, what do you know? Out of sight, out of mind. They were definitely put in a safe place, that's for sure. Almost one too safe. Ha! Beast. Just as nasty. That's nice. That's real nice. Now I just need to get it cleaned up. It's time to wire this thing. So the first thing we want to do is figure out our requirements. This particular motor on the saw is 230 volt, 7.5 amps is what it's rated at. So what we're going to do is run a 20 amp circuit, going to dedicate it to the saw. And so we're 66 feet from the circuit breaker. We also have to come down half of a wall on both sides, so let's call it 80. So 80 feet, 230 volts, 20 amps, and 2% allowed voltage drop. We come up with a number 12 wire. And so I had some number 10 still left over from where I wired that saw right there. And thought, well, we'll just reuse that, use the size bigger. And yeah, so I've run the wire. I've got to get up there in the rafters and put the wire hold downs on the cable, and then we'll run it across this rafter, poke a hole in that plate, come down the stud, and then we'll put the box right there at the right point. You should be good. So let's get started. So we've got the black and white wire here that'll go into the circuit breaker, one for each leg. And then I have my ground wire staked around here, and I'm trying to get it in a spot where I can put it in the ground bar. It's in there, so now we need to tighten it up. Okay, now it's time to put our breaker in. So we have a, sure I got this on in the shot. So we have a 2-pole 20 amp. So we want to have that in the off position. This right here is your bus. That is hot. You touch that, it's going to do major things to your body that you do not want, so be careful there. So what we want to do is we want to take these 2 feet here, and we want to hook them, hinge them into this right here. So you can kind of do that like so, and then slide the breaker blades into the existing blades there. And there we go. So now this is the important piece. You want it off. You flip this on, you start messing with these wires, and you're going to get something you don't want. So make sure this is turned off. You put your meter on it just to make sure that it's off, but whatever you do, Do not have it on while you're putting the wires in, or you will get electrocuted. All right, so now we're gonna take these wires and cut them to length. Notice I'm holding on to both ends of the wire because I do not want anything going in a direction that I'm not fully prepared for it to go in. Okay, so here's our multimeter. I wanted to show you real quick how to measure voltage to see if a circuit, or in this case a breaker, is hot or not. So I've got this on the volts AC section, and then the breaker is off. So when I put this across these two screws here, we read 0. Okay, so that now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this on. Okay, we're going to do the same thing, and we read 239 volts. Turn that back off, and we're at 0. All right, so now we got the breaker off. So let's strip back this wire. Okay. Doesn't really matter which one of these you put where in terms of which pole you select on the breaker. I like to keep them all the same. So as you can see, I'm using the white wire on the top pole and the black wire on the the bottom pole in the orientation of this breaker. All right, so we know the power's off. I've got it, it's too long, so I don't like for them to have the bare wire showing. So what I typically do is I will come back and cut that, trim it up a little bit. Okay, there we go. Okay. That box is, or that circuit is in. So now our other side is still it's not terminated. So we do not want to turn this on until we get everything wired in the box. So I'm going to leave it off and I'm going to move to the other side. Measure at the moment, so I'm going to eyeball it. I've got another outlet 2 joist over, so just going to eyeball this thing. Right. This particular setup does not have a hole that you put these in, so you're going to want to wrap it around the screw. Like so. And then do the same thing on this side. All right, so now we do have a ground wire here. So what we need to do, since we're using the metal box, is we need to ground it as well. So the proper way to do this is to make a pigtail and screw it to the box, and then another wire, short wire, which we can use part of this ground, to come off of here, about yay long, and then wire tie all three. So let me get that going. Get this opened up just a little bit. There we go. Put it in there like so. Cut down on there. Tighten it up. Oop, wrong correction. See what I'm doing here. So we always want to put the end of the wire going the direction the screw is going to turn. Otherwise, what will happen is when you tighten the screw down, it'll essentially push the wire out from underneath the screw. And so by having it the same direction, it'll actually twist it and presumably make it tighter. All right, so we got 3 ground wires here, all very large, number 10. So 3 number 10 wires. I'm going to use a red wire nut. All right, got that going on. All right. All right, so last thing we're gonna do is throw the power. test. So we should read 240 volts across both hot, which we do, 241. And then we should be half of that on each leg. So between the ground, one leg should be 120. Ground and the other leg, 120. So that looks good. We should be able to plug our table saw in now and see if it is still okay after sitting for almost 40 years. Let's get cleaned up and see what we got. All right, here we go. Well, in conclusion, I think we wound up with a pretty nice saw. I have cut a couple pieces and it all seems to be working properly, and I think I will continue to play with it just a little bit before I get serious about cutting anything. But for a table saw that's sat here for 30 some odd years, I think it's turned out to be a good one. Again, this is a Hitachi 12-inch table saw. The model number is C12Y. And I'll just give you a quick tour of it here. It's got a really nice fence that I couldn't be more happier with out of the box. You can see it's got the rule on it. Tighten this up. Fence is secure. I really like that it's got this piece on the back, so the fence is not going to go anywhere once you tighten it up. There's the motor, which I think, for it being an 80s era model. It's a really slick, it sounds pretty efficient. 2 belts. I'm looking forward to using it more. Slots or T-slots, little things like that sets it apart in my mind. Even from a lot of today's table saws, I know there's all kinds of new technology out there that I am probably not even aware of, but at the same time, this is pretty cool. Well, thanks everyone for following along with the adventure. We took a almost 40-year-old saw that had been sitting right over there out of the box for the first time a few days ago, and got it cleaned up and assembled. Got a new circuit wired for it and plugged it up and started it for the first time today, and it works great. I love the functionality, the way it's built. It's a Hitachi Type C 12Y is the model number. Still got the instruction manual and everything that came with it, so I'm happy. I think this thing will last me for the rest of my lifetime, hopefully, and I'll get some good use out of it. Thanks all. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I've got car videos, I've got woodworking, I've got metalworking, all types of hobbies that I alternate between. And so if you like this type of thing, be sure and like and subscribe, and there'll be more to come. Thanks a lot.